God warns you have a shocking letter. Your skipping will get you in danger. My beloved child, stop for a moment, because the letter you were never expecting may be the very message that makes you see your life differently. There is something written between the lines of your recent silence, your unanswered questions, and that strange feeling that something is about to change. This is not the kind of message you rush through and forget 5 minutes later. Stay till the end, because the final words may connect everything you have been feeling lately. And don't skip, because sometimes the most important sentence is the one we almost missed. Imagine opening a letter with your name on it, only to discover that it speaks directly to the part of your heart you have never explained to anyone. The first lines seem ordinary, but then you reach one sentence that makes you stop completely. It says that you have been looking for an answer outside yourself while the answer has been quietly forming within you. Something huge is waiting for you in this message, not a promise of instant miracles, but a revelation about what you have been overlooking. And here is where the letter becomes deeply personal. It tells you that some doors did not close because you were forgotten, they closed because your attention was needed somewhere else. Some people became distant, not because your story had lost its meaning, but because you were being given space to hear your own heart again. Think about the moments when you almost gave up, when you questioned whether your prayers mattered, when you wondered why the path ahead seemed so unclear. The letter speaks into that exact place and says, you were not as alone as you thought. There were lessons hidden inside those delays. There was strength being built inside those quiet seasons. And there was a version of you waiting on the other side of everything you thought would break you. Don't skip this part, because the next line of the letter changes the entire meaning. It says that your greatest revelation may not arrive as something loud. It may arrive as one simple realization that suddenly makes the past make sense. Stay till the end, because that realization is where this message is ultimately leading. But there is one final sentence on the page, and this is the sentence you almost never notice when you are rushing. Pay attention to what keeps returning to your heart. Read that again. What keeps returning? A dream you stopped pursuing? A person you still remember? A decision you keep postponing? A desire to begin again? The letter suggests that sometimes repetition is not meaningless, it can be an invitation to look closer. And perhaps that is why you found this message at this exact moment. Not because you are promised a specific outcome, but because something inside you is ready to become honest. Something huge is waiting for you, but first you have to recognize what has been quietly waiting inside you all along. So don't skip. Stay till the end. Because the next part of this letter reveals why the most confusing chapter of your life may have been preparing you for the clearest one yet. My beloved child, there is another page to this letter, and this is where the message becomes harder to ignore. You thought the unanswered moments were the end of the story, but what if they were actually clues? What if the silence, the delays, and the unexpected changes were quietly revealing what truly belongs in your life? Read this slowly, because the letter carries a message for the part of you that has been exhausted from trying to understand everything at once. It says you do not need to have every answer today. Sometimes clarity arrives only after you stop forcing an explanation and begin noticing what consistently brings peace, wisdom, and purpose into your heart. Don't skip, because there is a detail coming that changes how you should look at the entire message. Something huge is waiting for you, not necessarily in the form you imagined, but in a form you may recognize only when you finally stop chasing what keeps making you question your worth. Then the letter reveals something even more surprising. You may have been measuring your progress by what you could see, while God was working through what you could not see. Think about that. A seed underground looks like nothing is happening, yet beneath the surface, everything is changing. Your season may feel similar. You may look at your life and say, nothing has moved. But perhaps your patience has grown. Your discernment has become sharper. Your heart has learned which connections deserve your energy and which ones should simply remain part of your past. The letter does not tell you to fear what comes next. It tells you to become attentive. Notice the conversation that suddenly gives you clarity. Notice the opportunity that aligns with your values. Notice the thought that keeps returning with unusual peace. Notice the strength you did not have months ago but somehow carry now. Stay till the end, because the most important line has not appeared yet, and it explains why this letter found you when it did. And now the page reaches a sentence that feels almost impossible to overlook. What you thought was being taken from you may have been making room for what you were finally ready to receive. Let that settle for a moment. Maybe you were holding tightly to an old expectation because you believed losing it meant losing your future. But sometimes releasing an old picture is how you become capable of recognizing a better one. This is not about predicting exactly what will happen or promising you a particular outcome. It is about recognizing the transformation already happening inside you. So if this message is speaking to a season you have been quietly carrying, share it with someone who may need the reminder, and keep listening. Don't skip the next moment, because the letter is about to reveal the one thing you must stop doing if you want to understand the message hidden behind everything you have experienced. Stay till the end. The next page is where the real revelation begins. My beloved child, the next page begins with a sentence that may feel uncomfortable at first. Stop looking for confirmation in places that have already shown you their answer. Let that sink in. How many times have you returned to the same question, hoping the same situation would suddenly become different? How many times have you replayed an old conversation, searched for hidden meaning in someone's silence, or waited for a sign when your own heart was already telling you what you needed to understand? This letter is not here to make you afraid of what comes next. It is here to make you aware. Don't skip, because the deeper you go, the more this message begins connecting pieces you thought had nothing to do with each other. The disappointment you experienced, the unexpected pause, the plan that changed at the last moment, perhaps these were not isolated moments. Perhaps they were teaching you to recognize the difference between something you desperately want and something that genuinely gives your life direction. Stay till the end, because there is a sentence ahead that may completely change how you interpret one chapter of your past. Then comes the revelation hidden beneath the message. Sometimes the answer you ask God for is not an immediate change in circumstances, but a change in your ability to see those circumstances clearly. You wanted the situation to explain itself, but instead, you were given patience. You wanted someone to finally understand you, but instead, you learned how to stop abandoning yourself just to be understood. You wanted certainty about tomorrow, but instead, you were taught how to walk forward without needing to know every detail. And perhaps that is why this letter feels so different. It does not tell you to chase. It tells you to notice. Notice what repeatedly drains your peace. Notice what consistently strengthens your character. Notice which choices leave you feeling honest with yourself and which ones force you to become someone you are not. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may begin with one small decision. Stop negotiating with what you already know. Stay till the end, because the next words reveal what happens when you finally make that decision. And then you reach the line that makes the entire letter feel personal. The chapter you keep trying to reopen may be the chapter that taught you how to turn the page. Suddenly, everything becomes different. Maybe you were never meant to spend forever wondering why something ended. Maybe you were meant to understand what it taught you, carry the wisdom forward, and become someone who no longer needs the same lesson repeated. This does not mean forgetting the people, memories, or dreams that mattered. It means refusing to let yesterday control the way you enter tomorrow. So breathe. Look at your life with fresh eyes. The letter is not predicting your future, it is challenging you to participate in it. Don't skip now. Stay till the end, because there is still one final piece missing, and once that piece becomes clear, you may understand why the message began with a warning to pay attention rather than a promise of what you would receive. My beloved child, the fourth page begins differently. There is no dramatic announcement, no complicated explanation, only one sentence written clearly across the page: you are closer to clarity than you realize. And suddenly, the things that felt scattered begin to look connected. The letter asks you to remember the moments when you almost walked away from something important, not because you stopped caring, but because you became tired of waiting for an answer. Perhaps you thought nothing was happening. Perhaps you assumed the silence meant rejection. But what if the silence was giving you room to recognize what your emotions were too loud to notice? Don't skip, because this is where the message becomes deeper. The letter says that your next chapter should not be built from desperation, comparison, or the need to prove yourself. It should be built from wisdom. Something huge is waiting for you, but before you recognize it, you may have to release the belief that everything valuable must arrive loudly. Some of the greatest changes begin quietly, with a decision, a conversation, a realization, or one morning when you suddenly wake up and know you cannot keep living according to an old version of yourself. Then comes a line that feels almost impossible to dismiss: do not confuse delay with denial. Think about how powerful that is. A delayed answer can make you question everything, especially when you see other people moving forward while you feel stuck in the same place. But your journey is not measured by somebody else's timeline. The letter reminds you that preparation can happen without applause. Growth can happen without witnesses. Healing can happen without announcements. And sometimes the most important transformation is invisible until one day your reaction to an old situation is completely different. The same words that once shattered your confidence no longer control your emotions. The same uncertainty that once made you panic no longer decides your choices. That is progress. That is evidence that something inside you has changed. Stay till the end, because the next sentence explains why you should not rush the chapter you are currently living. And if this message has reached a place in your heart that words have struggled to reach, share it with someone who may also need a reminder that their story is still unfolding. Now turn the page carefully, because the final paragraph contains something you may have been waiting to understand. It says, when the right moment arrives, you will not need to force yourself to recognize it. That sentence changes everything. You will not have to chase every opportunity, convince every person, or beg every door to open. You will become more aware of what aligns with your values, your peace, your purpose, and the person you are becoming. And perhaps the shocking part of this letter is not that something outside you is suddenly going to change. Perhaps it is that you are changing enough to finally respond differently when life gives you another opportunity. Don't skip this message now. Stay till the end, because the next page reveals the one realization that can make the entire letter feel completely different from the beginning. You may have started this video expecting a warning about something coming toward you. But what if the real message is about something already inside you that you have been ignoring, and what if recognizing it is the first step toward everything that comes next? My beloved child, the next page contains the sentence that changes the meaning of everything you have heard so far: the answer may not arrive looking like an answer. Read that slowly. You have been waiting for something obvious, something unmistakable, something that removes every question from your mind. But perhaps God is teaching you to recognize the quiet forms of guidance you once overlooked. A conversation that gives you perspective. A sudden realization while you are alone. A door that closes and forces you to reconsider your direction. A new desire that makes you want to become disciplined again. These moments may look ordinary, but sometimes ordinary moments carry extraordinary clarity. Don't skip, because this is where the letter becomes deeply connected to your own story. Something huge is waiting for you, but you may miss it if you keep expecting it to arrive exactly the way you imagined. The letter says that your next breakthrough in understanding may begin when you stop demanding that life explain itself immediately. Stay till the end, because there is another line coming that reveals why the thing you have been waiting for may require a completely different version of you. Then the letter becomes even more personal. It says, you have survived chapters that once convinced you they would never end. Think about that. There were moments when you could not imagine feeling peaceful again, yet somehow you continued. There were days when you felt uncertain about your direction, yet you still woke up and carried on. There were moments when you questioned your own strength, yet you kept moving. That matters. Maybe you have been searching for evidence that God has been with you, while forgetting to look at the person you became through every difficult season. Your patience is evidence. Your wisdom is evidence. Your ability to begin again is evidence. And now the letter asks you to stop treating your past as proof that your future will repeat itself. The past can teach you without controlling you. Stay till the end, because the next revelation is about one decision that could completely change the way you read the rest of this letter. And there it is, the sentence written almost at the bottom of the page: do not return to an old version of yourself simply because it is familiar. Suddenly, the entire message becomes clear. Maybe the letter was never really about something arriving from outside you. Maybe it was about recognizing that you are no longer the same person who entered your previous chapter. You have learned. You have grown. You have discovered what matters. You have become more aware of what deserves your energy and what does not. So when the next opportunity appears, do not approach it with yesterday's fear. When the next relationship enters your life, do not carry every old disappointment into it. When the next door opens, do not assume you are still the person who was turned away before. Something huge is waiting for you, but first, you must be willing to meet it as the person you are becoming. Don't skip now. Stay till the end, because the letter has one more hidden message, and it may explain why you were led to hear these words at this exact moment. My beloved child, the next page is almost completely blank, except for one sentence written in the center: what you are searching for may be teaching you how to recognize it. And suddenly, the entire letter feels different. Maybe you have spent too much time asking when something will happen, who will return, which door will open, or what your next chapter will look like. But the letter redirects your attention towards something deeper: who are you becoming while you wait? Because sometimes preparation is happening long before the evidence appears. Your character is being strengthened. Your priorities are becoming clearer. Your ability to recognize peace is becoming sharper. Don't skip, because this is where the message begins revealing why certain things could not make sense earlier. You were trying to understand the final picture while you were still standing inside the unfinished part of the story. Something huge is waiting for you, but you may first need to understand that not every unanswered question deserves your attention forever. Some questions lose their power when you outgrow the version of yourself that asked them. Then another line appears beneath it: stop measuring God's presence by the speed of your results. That one sentence can change the way you look at your entire journey. There were probably moments when you thought, if I am being guided, why is this taking so long? But perhaps the delay was not empty space. Perhaps it gave you time to develop patience before receiving responsibility. Perhaps it gave you discernment before introducing you to a new opportunity. Perhaps it taught you to value what is real instead of becoming attached to what simply looks impressive. And maybe the most surprising part is this: you may already be standing inside an answer you once prayed for, but because it arrived differently than expected, you have not recognized it. Look again. Look at your growth. Look at the people who genuinely support you. Look at the lessons that changed your decisions. Look at the courage that appeared after you thought you had none left. Stay till the end, because the letter is approaching the sentence that ties all of these pieces together. At the bottom of the page, you finally discover the words that make you stop. You are not waiting for your life to begin. You are learning how to live the life already placed in your hands. Let that sink in. You do not have to postpone peace until every question is answered. You do not have to postpone gratitude until everything goes according to plan. You do not have to postpone becoming your strongest self until somebody recognizes your value. Begin where you are. Choose wisely where you can. Forgive what you are ready to release. Protect what deserves protection. Walk toward what gives your life meaning. And trust that clarity can unfold one step at a time. Don't skip now, because the letter is not finished. The next page contains the most unexpected revelation yet. One that may explain why something you desperately wanted did not happen when you expected it to happen, and why that delay may have protected a future you could not see at the time. Stay till the end. My beloved child, the next page contains only a few words, but they carry the weight of everything that came before. Some answers arrive disguised as redirection. Suddenly, the moments you called setbacks begin to look different. The plan that changed. The opportunity that disappeared. The conversation that never happened. The path you thought would become your future but somehow faded away. You may have spent months asking why, but perhaps the better question is what those moments taught you to notice. Don't skip, because the letter is now reaching the part you were never expecting. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may not be connected to what you once thought you needed. Sometimes God does not simply give us what we ask for. Sometimes the journey changes our understanding of what is actually worth asking for. And when your perspective changes, your definition of success changes with it. You stop chasing what looks impressive and begin choosing what feels meaningful. You stop measuring your life through other people's timelines and start recognizing the quiet progress happening within your own. Then the letter reveals something even more personal. The thing you lost may have taught you what you should never lose again. Read that twice. Maybe you lost confidence, and now you understand the importance of protecting your self-respect. Maybe you lost time, and now you value every ordinary day differently. Maybe you lost a connection, and now you understand what genuine consistency looks like. Maybe you lost a dream, and through that disappointment discovered another purpose waiting underneath it. The letter does not ask you to pretend those moments were easy. It asks you to stop allowing them to define your entire identity. Your past is a chapter, not your entire book. Stay till the end, because there is a reason this message keeps returning to the idea of recognition. You are being reminded to recognize your growth before demanding evidence of what comes next. And when you finally see how far you have traveled, you may realize that you are not standing where you started. And then, almost at the very bottom of the page, appears the line you were meant to remember: do not let an old disappointment make you suspicious of a new beginning. That sentence feels different because it speaks directly to the part of you that became cautious after being disappointed. You may have learned to expect less so that you would not be hurt again. You may have stopped getting excited because hope once felt risky. But the letter says you do not have to live permanently inside yesterday's emotional weather. A new chapter deserves to be approached with new wisdom. Not blind trust. Not unrealistic expectations. Wisdom. Pay attention. Move thoughtfully. Keep your standards. Keep your peace. And when something genuinely aligns with the person you are becoming, allow yourself to recognize it. Don't skip now. Stay till the end, because the final pages are getting closer, and one revelation remains. The message that explains why this letter began with such urgency and why the most important thing you can carry forward is not fear, but awareness. My beloved child, the next page begins with a sentence that feels almost impossible to ignore. You have been asking for clarity, but clarity has already been visiting you in pieces. Think about every small realization that changed the way you saw your life. The moment you suddenly understood why a certain chapter had to end. The conversation that exposed what you had been avoiding. The quiet morning when your heart finally felt lighter. The decision you made that your older self would never have had the courage to make. These were not meaningless moments. They were pieces of the picture. Don't skip, because the letter is now bringing those pieces together. Something huge is waiting for you, but perhaps the greatest revelation is that you do not have to see the entire road before taking the next honest step. Sometimes you only receive enough light for the step directly in front of you. Stay till the end, because the next sentence explains why the thing you have been waiting to understand may have already started changing inside you. Then the letter turns toward a truth many people struggle to accept. You cannot enter a new chapter while constantly demanding that the previous chapter explain itself. Those words hit differently. Maybe you have been waiting for an apology, an explanation, a final conversation, or one perfect answer that would make everything feel complete. But closure does not always arrive through another person. Sometimes closure arrives when you finally stop giving an old situation the authority to decide how you feel today. You can acknowledge what happened without living inside it. You can remember someone without returning to the same pattern. You can honor a dream without allowing its absence to convince you that your future is empty. This is where the letter becomes powerful, because it is no longer asking what you lost. It is asking what you are ready to build. Stay till the end, because there is one final shift coming, and it changes the meaning of the word letter itself. At the bottom of the page, the final line reads, "The message was never only meant to reach your hands, it was meant to reach your heart." And suddenly, you understand. This letter is not a prediction about one specific event. It is an invitation to become more awake to your own life. To notice what deserves your attention. To stop overlooking the small signs of growth already around you. To stop assuming that every delay means failure. To stop calling yourself behind simply because your path looks different from someone else's. Something huge may be waiting ahead, but you do not need to manufacture it, chase it, or force it. Keep walking with wisdom. Keep your heart open without abandoning your discernment. Don't skip now. Stay till the end, because there is still one last page, and that page contains the sentence that could turn this entire letter from something you watched into something you remember long after the video ends. My beloved child, the final page is not what you expected, because instead of revealing a name, a date, or a prediction, it begins with a question. What if the message you were waiting to receive is actually asking you to become ready for what you once prayed for? Sit with that for a moment. Maybe you have been focused on what is missing that you forgot to notice what has already changed. Your patience is different. Your standards are different. Your heart is stronger. Your understanding of people is deeper. And perhaps the most surprising revelation is that the person you are becoming may be the reason your old patterns no longer feel comfortable. Don't skip, because the letter is finally showing you why the earlier pages kept asking you to pay attention. Something huge is waiting for you, but the first sign may simply be a new level of clarity about what you will no longer accept, what you genuinely value, and where you want your life to go. Stay till the end, because one sentence remains that brings the entire message together. Then you read, "Do not confuse familiarity with destiny." Those words seem simple, but they reach deep. Sometimes we return to familiar places because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. We repeat familiar patterns because at least we know what to expect. We hold on to old expectations because releasing them means admitting that life may have another direction for us. But the letter reminds you that familiar does not always mean right, and unfamiliar does not automatically mean wrong. There is a difference between reckless movement and courageous growth. You can move carefully while still moving forward. You can honor your past without allowing it to dictate your future. You can love what once mattered while accepting that your next chapter may require different choices. And maybe that is the real warning hidden inside this letter. Not a warning of something terrible, but a loving reminder not to overlook your own growth. Don't skip this moment. Stay till the end, because the final words are about to reveal what you should carry with you after this message ends. And now the letter reaches its final sentence. When the next chapter opens, remember that you were prepared for it in places you thought you were simply being tested. That is the revelation. The waiting taught you patience. The confusion taught you discernment. The disappointment taught you boundaries. The silence taught you to listen. The changes taught you flexibility. And the moments when you thought you were falling behind may have been the moments when you were quietly becoming stronger. So when something new appears, do not immediately dismiss it because it looks different from what you imagined. Look carefully. Pray for wisdom. Think clearly. Protect your peace. Take the next step with courage. Something huge is waiting for you. But perhaps the greatest thing waiting is the realization that your story is not finished simply because one chapter ended. Don't skip now. Stay till the end and remember this: you are allowed to begin again without carrying every old fear into the new beginning. The letter may be ending, but the message does not have to end here. My beloved child, there is one final page, and this time the letter begins with words that were never meant to frighten you. Pay attention to what brings you closer to truth, peace, wisdom, and purpose. That is the heart of everything you have heard. The shocking part was never that something terrible was coming. The shocking part is realizing how many answers can remain invisible when your mind is consumed by fear, impatience, or yesterday's disappointment. You were looking for one dramatic moment to tell you what to do, while life was giving you smaller moments of clarity every day. Don't skip, because this final page carries the message that can change how you approach everything after this video. Something huge is waiting for you, but you do not need to chase it blindly. You need to become attentive enough to recognize what deserves your time, careful enough to question what does not align with your values, and courageous enough to move when the right decision becomes clear. Stay till the end, because the final words of this letter are not about predicting your future. They are about reminding you that your choices still matter. Then, beneath those words, you discover something you never expected: you were never required to understand the entire journey before taking the next step. Suddenly, the confusion begins to feel less like a failure and more like an invitation to trust the process one step at a time. You do not need to know every detail about tomorrow. You only need enough wisdom for today. If a decision requires patience, give it patience. If a conversation requires honesty, choose honesty. If a chapter needs to remain closed, let it remain closed without constantly reopening the same wound in your mind. If an opportunity appears, examine it carefully instead of immediately assuming it is either the answer or the mistake. This is how you protect your peace while still remaining open to possibility. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson hidden inside the letter: God does not need you to live tomorrow today. You are allowed to take today seriously and let tomorrow reveal itself in its proper time. Don't skip the ending, because there is one final sentence waiting for you. And finally, at the very bottom of the letter, you read, "The message you were searching for was not permission to be afraid, it was permission to move forward with wisdom. Let those words remain with you. Whatever happened before does not have to control what happens next. The doors that closed taught you something. The people who left taught you something. The delays taught you something. The quiet seasons taught you something. But you are not required to spend the rest of your life standing beside those lessons. Carry the wisdom, then keep walking. Something huge may still unfold in your life, but you do not need a guaranteed outcome to begin living with purpose today. Stay aware. Stay grounded. Stay prayerful. Keep your heart open, but keep your discernment strong. And if you remember only one thing from this entire letter, remember this: sometimes the most important message is not what will happen next, it is who you become while you are waiting for what comes next. The letter is now closed, but your story is still being written.